Welcome to another edition of Focal Points. I am Edina Nkunu, and today with me we have a very important personality. Well, he's important to me. He's important to Ghana, and he's contributed immensely in his own small way. And we'll have him tell us a little bit about himself and what he has for us today. Welcome once again to the Focal Points. Greetings, sir.
Greetings. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Yourself?
I'm also fine.
All right. Please tell us something small about yourself.
Okay. My name is Stephen Komna Boko, born in 1957. I hold a master's degree in mechanical engineering, specializing in internal combustion engines. Because during most of our work, we do a lot of calculations, I got attracted to figures generally. And after school, whilst teaching at the Go Polytechnic, now Go Technical University, I took up a hobby of ICT and taught myself Python as a coding language so that I can delve deeper into big data. And because of paucity of big data in Ghana, I usually use the election data for most of my analysis.
Okay, so that is what brought us here today to discuss some things that you discovered from the research think tank.
Yes.
Okay. Can you please tell us about it?
Normally, the EC gives us the number of votes cast as the number of people who voted in an election. And we calculate their turnout based on this figure, which to my view is not the best. Because if you really get the number of people verified to vote, you can tell how many people really voted in the election. But throughout a lot of the elections from 1992, you don't see those figures. But whilst reading a book by Frederick Ebert Foundation on the 2016 election, I saw a table that was trying to justify how effective the biometric voting devices are.
In 2016?
In 2016. So I saw this as an opportunity to juxtapose the number of people who were verified to vote against the real number of votes cast.
Okay.
And the table included a summary of the regional votes cast in the elections and the percentage of people who were manually verified to vote.
I think from that book, the data you're talking about is on page 91.
Yes.
Of the book you're talking about. So back to page 91 of the book.
Yes. So on page 91, you see a table which describes the region, total votes cast, number of voters verified manually, and the percentage of that figure. The total votes cast was not defined whether it was for the presidential elections or the parliamentary elections. Okay. But using what I have come across in the study in Python, the data science, it uses the scientific method, mathematics, algebra, specialized coding, advanced analytics, and maybe even storytelling to get a true picture of the data before the researcher. Unlike in most other places, we do only a statistical study of the data. So what I did is applied algebra to the figures in the table. And I could easily determine the number of people verified by the BVD machines and the total number of people verified to vote.
Using the percentage and the number of verified voters manually.
Yes. Simple algebra.
Even from the table, before we go, I have seen something rather interesting here. I think on the ninth, that's the ninth region. That's Upper East.
Yes.
Upper East recorded the highest of manually verified voters. That's 2.23.
Yes.
The next one, which is the second highest, is Upper West. That's 1.145% of the total voters. And then Northern region recorded exactly 1% of the total voters. This is according to the data that is in the Frederick Ebert Foundation, which is, for the purpose of this discussion, a secondary source of data for this discussion.
Sure.
And so then it starts to reason that the other regions recorded less than 1%. In fact, I can say less than 0.5%, which is impressive.
Sure. That means the voter, the biometric verification machine is really working very well.
I see. As of 2016.
As of 2016.
Okay.
We could see that where manual work is not the major work of the area, the number of people verified to vote was more than 99%. It is in the areas or the rural areas or the northern part of the country that we have something less than 99%. But overall, the West is in the Upper East. But I flagged those two figures because 8 and 9, Northern Ghana or the Northern region and the Upper East have the same figure.
Okay.
In the analysis, that introduces a little bit unreliability in the data, but it is what is in the public domain, so the order did not provide such a cause for alarm.
Okay. All right. So now, looking at what you were talking about, how were you able to get the total number of verified voters?
Okay, I said earlier that it was just a simple algebra. If 0.11% of the total number of people who were verified to vote is 1,135 as in the Western region, then a simple algebra equation can get you the value of 1,031,818 as the total number of people verified
To vote in
the Western region.
entirely. Okay. So now we are looking at the very first region on the table here, which is the Western region.
So if we go through like that, we'll eventually get the figures for all the regions. That's how we got the table of the number of people verified to vote.
Okay. There is something interesting here, but before I talk about that, because I can see some disparities between the total votes cast on the page 91 table, the total votes cast, which is 1,024,923.
Yes,
And then the total number of verified voters, as you have calculated from the percentage of verified voters manually.
so
I see some disparity there.
as an academic, I was also surprised that the figures were not the same, because if we voted, the number of people who were verified to vote and everybody cast one vote, then the numbers should be equal. But unfortunately, in the figure presented on page 91, as the total votes cast differed from the number of people verified to vote. So I decided to check where those figures came from.
Excuse me, sir, but before you look at where the figures came from, is it possible that we had rejected ballots, we had spoiled ballots as part of these? Is that a possibility? Because the total number of verified voters as calculated here is 1,031,818 for presidential. Or in entirely, but for presidential, the total votes cast. So the total number of verified voters is actually, as calculated, is actually 1,031,818. But the total votes cast in the presidential election in the Western region is 1,024,923. So I am trying to find out from you, sir, the possible cause of disparity. Is it possible that they deducted some spoiled ballots and then some rejected ballots from the total votes cast in the presidential election?
See, the spoiled ballots do not enter the ballot box. So all the ballots in the ballot box are for the people who have been verified to vote and had voted. So the form capturing all these data, the pink sheet, as we normally call it in Ghana, had 3 major columns. That it does ballot accounting, voter accounting, then collation of results.
The rejected ballots do enter there.
Yes. So during the ballot accounting, the number of rejected ballots are removed from the box after voting has closed. Then the ballots which remains are called the valid votes cast. Okay. So the total votes cast includes the rejected ballots. Okay. Okay. So that number should be equal to the number of people verified to vote.
The rejected ballots together with
the
valid votes cast,
yes,
should be equal to the number of people that are verified to vote. Okay. So then you can detect undervoting or overvoting if there is disparity between the number of people, that's the total number of people verified to vote, and then the total votes cast in a certain election.
Yes. So, as an academic, that's what I'm interested in. The EC's collation throws away the data on the ballot accounting and the voter accounting. So during the declaration of the results, we don't hear the total number of people registered to vote or verified to vote. We only hear that this total number of votes were cast, this total number of votes were rejected, and the declaration of the results.
But the total number of verified voters disappears from the collation, so that they prevent us from determining whether there has been some voter fraud or not. Okay. I see. So now, we were talking mainly about Western region because Western region is the first region on the table, as you saw on the screen earlier, and we'll put it out there again for you to see.
The EC's classification at that time, they number the regions from the Western region along the coast and then up north.
Oh, okay.
So you see that Western region gets the letter A,
okay,
Central B, Greater Accra C,
okay,
Volta D,
okay, all the way
down
to
yes.
Okay.
And I think even up to now they are still maintaining it with the new regions putting.
Okay. So again, I would like to remind our viewers that we are looking at the 2016 election results as published by the Frederick Ebert Think Tank Foundation. It's a German word. Frederick Ebert sounds more familiar for me to pronounce. But
the Steve Tongue is the foundation in English. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's why it is called in Ghana Frederick Ebert Foundation.
Okay, so I can just say Frederick Ebert Foundation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That sounds like a mouthful for me. Yes. So, based on the figures there, as put out for the 2016 general elections, I noticed that for the presidential, which is 1,024,923, there is a total verified voter of 1,031,818. But I also see that there is a column created for parliamentary election. There is a column on the table created for parliamentary election. How did we come by that, region by region? Because I know that the parliamentary elections were released, the results were released based on constituency.
As a researcher, I'm even interested in the data from all the polling stations. But I have scraped the internet for data on Ghana's elections, and I am not able to find much. That is why I rely on the public or the secondary sources, books, and others that I can get. Okay. And they normally summarize the data. So since my pointer, the number of people verified to vote, was provided as a summary of the regional figure, I decided to pick the regional figures from the book too. So though they publish the figures by constituency and regional for the presidential, I decided to add the constituencies figures to get the regional figures for all the regions so that I can do my comparison.
Okay. So the constituency figures were published. Yes. You just did the calculation because you were aware of, or you are aware of the names of the constituencies in whichever region it is they are in. So when you pick Akan constituency, for example, you know that it's in the Volta region.
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely, the book grouped the constituencies to the regions.
Okay.
And that's page 147 or so to 157 to 247. Yeah, so you can also just easily take the book and then add up the figures. Yes.
Okay. So the next page, because I see on the same page some disparities in the total votes cast in the parliamentary elections and then the total votes cast in the presidential elections.
Yes.
But the total number of verified voters as calculated from the table on page 91 remains the same. Now, how is that a possibility? Because you cast the parliamentary ballot before you cast the presidential ballot. I think that's the general routine in our elections here in Ghana. So how is it possible that there is, in the Western region, more votes were cast for the parliamentary election than in the presidential race?
You see, in Ghana, it is not compulsory to vote. And we run 2 elections every time to vote. Presidential elections and parliamentary elections. And you are free to vote in any one you like. So if I go to verify myself, the number of people verified to vote should be the same for the 2 elections. But I can decide to vote in the parliamentary election and not vote in the presidential election, or vote in the presidential election and refuse to vote in the parliamentary election. So you don't expect the vote cast in the presidential and the parliamentary to be the same.
In as much as that is true, I would expect that the total number of verified voters in comparison to the parliamentary should at least be the same.
That should be the case.
Because over here in the parliamentary election, I see 1,097,274 votes as compared to a total number of verified voters of 1,031,818. That suggests to me that from just this, there is, I think, about 6,000 plus, almost 7,000.
You see, if you look at the figures, they look peculiar. So you want to delve deeper into the figures before you.
Okay.
So I decided to deduct the number of people verified to vote from the total votes cast. If the two figures are the same, there is no problem. But if there is an excess, then it means more votes were cast than the number of people verified to vote. If the number of votes cast is less than the number of people verified to vote, then it means they are missing votes. Yes. So that takes us to the next table. The missing and excess votes in the presidential elections. And I saw that Western region had 1,031,818 people verified to vote, yet the total votes cast in the presidential election was 1,024,923, meaning there is a missing votes of 6,895. So I was wondering, where could these votes have gone to?
Yeah, where did they go?
Yes.
Because
then
the what is it called? The figure for the presidential is still 1,024,923. But those who are verified to vote are 1,031,818, which suggests, like you just mentioned, the missing votes of almost 7,000. Yes. Where could these have gone, in your opinion?
Well, I don't want to hazard an opinion in this case.
Well, because I am not seeing the answers. I can only elicit your opinion.
Yeah, because I don't have enough data to make definitive statements on this. I don't want to hazard a guess.
Okay.
But the interesting thing in
there's something in the central region and the Greater Accra and the rest.
Yeah, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
You notice that Western region, Greater Accra, Volta, Brom Ahafo, and Upper East registered missing votes.
Yes.
And the highest number of missing votes was registered in the Volta region, which is the well bank of the NDC. So one is tempted to ask, why did we have missing votes in the regions that seem to support NDC and the regions which support the NPP? We have excess votes in those regions on this bit. But as I have already said, we need other data to be able to make real scientific statements or verifiable statements on those figures.
So is it possible for us to maybe try talk to the EC to see, or maybe use RTI to requisition the data for at least academic analysis?
The there is a big problem in that. I have tried getting all this data from the ECE, and they directed me to Accra. And I know the difficulty with getting information from the public institution, so I dropped it.
Oh, so
that's the most.
I've
attempted to get all the figures, yes, for various elections, not just
the 2016.
Yes, because I am really interested in seeing how fair our elections have been.
Okay. So the Rick Ebert Foundation just made it easier for you because at least they put up something.
Yes, most people read books and they don't think further than what they have read. Yes, but I was ready to think outside the box. The figure provided was a publication by an academic who wanted to show how effective our biometric verification devices are. But I have seen where I can apply the same figure in my own search. That's why I started this analysis and got to where I am now.
Now, on the next page, I think that had to do with parliamentary. The figures there, which are missing votes in 2 regions, are massive. However, the figures of excess votes in the other 8 regions, and I would like to remind you that, you the viewers, that we are still talking about the 2016 elections. And at that time, there were 10 regions in Ghana. The other 6 were created after 2016. So we are still on 2016 election at the moment. So we realize that in the other 8 regions, the excesses were mind-blowing. I see in one region the excess votes to the tune of 121,645. Okay, so before we continue, I just want you to take 5 seconds of your time, hit the like button, and subscribe. Now, sir, there is something interesting. So we've been looking at the presidential, the missing votes, the excesses. And we will be going through that, but I want you to quickly walk us through the next page, which talks about, and as usual, we'll put it out there for you to see, so that you follow the discussion. So I want you to talk to us about this particular page, where there are excesses, and this is the parliamentary. And in some regions, in fact, in 2 regions, that's the northern region and then the upper east region, there are missing votes in the tens of thousands, in fact, 28,000 and then 35,000 respectively. However, Western, Central, Greater, the other 8 regions, there are votes in excess, and I'm talking about parliamentary elections over here. What connects the dots?
You see, the Ghana elections are very interesting. In our constitution, the president makes the appointments, all the appointments. But you will be surprised to see that more people vote in the parliamentary elections than the presidential elections. As if people care more about parliament than the executive in Ghana. Yes. So, and maybe the parties themselves too are supporting this because we don't do any presidential campaign separately most of the time. And we support the parliamentarians to campaign for themselves and the president. So it looks like the votes are showing us that they use all the money to campaign more for themselves than they campaign for the president.
Okay, so it's possible that someone goes to the polling station, casts his ballot for parliamentary, and then goes back home.
Yes.
It doesn't take ballot paper for presidential.
Yes, because during the campaign, the parliamentarian is telling them what he will do for them.
Okay.
And that's what concerns him.
Okay.
The president, he doesn't care. So that day, he comes to vote for only the parliamentary candidates and goes away.
I see.
Yes. Because look at the Western region, for example, the first on the list. In the presidential elections, we have a missing vote of 6,000 or almost 7,000.
6,895 to be specific.
Yes, but if you come to the parliamentary elections, there is an excess vote of over 65,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know what is happening in our democracy anyway. But when you look at the excess votes, Central region stands out per capita. So to me, there is no wonder people are calling it the swing region. But it looks like the swing character they have is coming from the higher level of fraud in our elections. Because if you look at the per capita, they are about 937,000. 375. Yes. But their excess vote is 33,500.
Oh, sorry. The total verified is 937,500.
Yes. And the total votes 971,046.
Okay.
Giving us excess of 33,546.
So that tells us that there is some level of voter fraud over there.
Yes.
Because the definition we've given, it is impossible to have more ballots in the ballot box than the number of people who were verified to vote. So before we continue this, because I'm very much interested in this, and I'm sure the viewing public is also interested in this, but I would like to quickly ask you, how does Ghana or the Electoral Commission define overvoting and undervoting? What is the definition we've given it?
You see, we have not seen any clear definition. We hear the definitions from all other politicians. So people think if you have more ballots in the box than the number of people registered in the area, that is overvoting. But very few police stations, you have 100% turnout. So it appears by their definition, there is no overvoting in Ghana. But the real definition of overvoting is when the ballots found in the ballot box is more than the number of people verified to vote. So
the definition we've all come to accept that the number of registered voters at a particular polling station or in a particular constituency should be equal or less than the number of votes cast is actually a fallacy.
Sure.
It should rather be the number of people that were verified to vote together with the number of ballots in the ballot box. But can we have a situation where we can use all the three so that the number of people who were registered in the polling station should be held constant, and then the number of people who were verified to vote together with the number of ballots in the ballot box, we should be able to do something with these figures to determine overvoting so that we don't leave one out. In as much as I want to follow what you are saying, we can have a situation, that's just my assumption by the way, we can have a situation where the number of people at a polling station could be, say, a polling station registers, say, 300,000 voters. Okay, or let's just say 300 voters. Okay, so 300 voters. And the voter turnout that day could be, say, 250. 250. But the number of people who were verified to vote could be
200.
Maybe 200.
Then there is overvoting.
Yes. So can we use these three instead of relying on just 2?
No, you see, it is because we don't compile all the information on the statement of polls.
Okay.
First, the law allows us to send more ballot papers to the polling station than the people registered in that polling station.
Yeah, I believe that is to solve the problem of spoiled ballots.
Yes. We have reduced the number of excess ballots because we have realized that 100% were not voting in any polling station. That's why previously they had 10%, now we reduce it to 5% to cater for the cases of everybody coming to vote and some people spoiling their ballots. Yes. But over time we realized that was not working. So provisions were made on the statement of polls for this to be recorded. Then there is a column which registered the number of people who were issued ballot papers based on the polling station register. Then there is another for those who have transferred their votes to that person. The technical name, the proxy voter list, yes. So, if we finish the elections, we should even cross-check to see whether the number of people who were issued the ballot papers equals the number of people who registered to vote.
Okay. All right.
Yes. So that's another check.
Which can come in during voter accounting.
Yes.
Okay.
Voter accounting.
So can we please go back to?
So when we come to the people registered to vote, if we notice that the number of ballots due after the ballot accounting is more than the number of people registered to vote, we are not supposed to open the ballot box and count the ballots inside. But we don't do that in Ghana, and it is not reported. Then, when we open the ballot finally and we check, we use the stamp for the polling station to see if we can identify the foreign ballots when it is more than the number of people registered to vote. If we find some ballots without the polling station stamp on it, it means it's a foreign material. We remove it from the ballots before we do our counts. But if it is bearing the stamp of the polling station, then it means really there is somebody who has been issued with extra ballot papers. But if you look at the figure closely, for example, in a greater or even this in central region, yes, the number of people verified by the biometric machine to vote is 936,375. Yet the total votes cast is 971,046. A figure which shows that even the votes cast here
exceed
yes,
the number that was verified
biometrically.
But then if we should add the manual verification, which was 1,125 to it, then we would have a sum total of 937,500.
Yes. And even with that too, there is an excess. So it means those who are verified to vote, even with the stamp, can go or have been given extra ballots to go and cast.
Which is a possibility.
That's what the data is showing. If not, it is difficult for us to get more than that number of votes
in this
or the ballots in the ballot box in the exercise. So if 937,500 people are voting, how can you get 971,046 ballot boxes in the ballot box?
And this runs through almost all the regions except for the northern and upper east that recorded missing votes.
Yes.
But still on the excess votes over here for the Bono Half region, we have 16,470.
Yes.
Which is also quite a lot when you compare it to the total
You see,
number.
the issue here is not even about the numbers. Our law says if we identify polling stations that in which overvoting occurs, we should cancel the votes in those stations and rerun the election. So what this is showing is that the results cannot be accepted, because if the total number of votes cast is not the true value, then you don't have the conditions to calculate valid votes cast. Do you get me?
Yeah.
And if you don't have grounds to calculate the valid votes cast, how do you declare winners? That's the issue. So these figures are showing us that we declared winners in error, because the total votes cast is standing on a wobbly feet.
That means that there is a possibility that there are some people, in fact, from these 8 regions. Well, let me just say, in Ghana, there are some members of parliament that served in the 7th parliament that didn't deserve to be there.
Sure.
I see.
And even the president will have to rerun to see whether he will win the second ballot, because the first has been discredited by these missing votes and the overvotes.
But how do these things happen on our blind sides? I mean, with all these, should I say, strategies we put in place, because almost all the political parties, and the 2 major ones, the NDC and the NPP, have polling agents, they have election directors, they have election monitors. So how do these things happen? Because the Greater Accra region is shocking. 121,645 in excess votes registered, because the total verified voters there, if you are looking on your screen, is 2,053,000. And the total votes cast in the parliamentary election is 2,174,645.
You see, people do not want to think outside the box in Ghana. So we don't want to believe that some people, okay, we don't want to believe that there are insights you can get if we try to just push the barriers or the limits a little further. And both parties, I don't think, have very good research units, because the research units are supposed to be digging under every data to see what they can find out to better their chances in the next elections.
Because this data out there could affect both the NDC and the NPP.
Sure.
So it's not really about whether the excesses went to the NDC or they went to the NPP.
No.
It could be for either of them.
For either.
But it calls into question the credibility
of the whole election. So that's the issue at stake. Because we cannot use this to say, oh, NPP really lost the election, but we are saying the election was not credible, so it should have been rerun.
Please, your final word to Ghanaians and the general public.
All I can say is, whatever you read, do not believe it. Become a walking question mark, so that you can always arrive at the truth. If not, you only believe what people want you to believe.
Thank you very much for staying with us on this edition of The Focal Point. I am Edinam Nkunu, and I was with Mr. Komla Nkor. I like calling him by his ever name. Yes.
In fact, in the household, that's the name they call me.
So till we come your way again, see you next time.